The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Uh-oh, we disappeared again. Yeah. There we are. Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And here it is. It's hump day. It's Wednesday.
Yes, it is, and it's a little crazy. People texting me on problems that happened at meetings, and the park board meeting is happening later this afternoon. And it's going to be interesting to see. But, you know, you have in front of you there, Chip, I put it out a little earlier. I'm going to disappear from the screen quickly, I think.
Yeah, your audio's a bit low.
That's nothing new for me.
There we are.
Might be better if I have the mic on.
Yeah, that's... oh.
I was worried about you showing up 20 seconds before the show starts, and I'm getting nervous here. Okay, so here... The Huffington Post ran a little test, which I thought was quite interesting. It was done on the 15th. They posted a headline: Bernie Sanders could replace President Trump with little-known loophole. Within hours of posting it, actually it was posted on the 14th, excuse me, correct that, 20,000 people had already read and shared this story. And it obviously was read or wasn't read, but just shared, because nobody read the story. It says, here is exactly what we need to do to save our great society. The information here is what we've all been waiting for. By doing this, we can make Bernie the president on Inauguration Day rather than President-elect Donald Trump. And then in the second paragraph, right at the top, it says, actually, no, we can't. There is no loophole. But people shared this. This was done to prove that people are sharing stuff and they have no idea because they're so blinded by their emotions.
Yeah, and it's a psychological ploy. I remember many years ago in a psych course I took, they gave an exam just to show this lack of people immediately jump to conclusions, especially when it's in their own self-interest. But the test began, and the heading of the test said, make sure you read all questions before you begin to answer any questions and follow the directions exactly. And it had 100 questions or so. And the problem was, the 100th question was, do not answer any questions. And 99.9% of the people who took this test answered all the questions, and when we got to the 100th question, they realized that they were directed not to check off any boxes. So, you know, this doesn't surprise me. Social media, it's ironic. I was watching a little bit this morning on TV about people on social media depersonalizing things where people can attack people easily with no consequences, and that the accuracy of what's put on there is under fire. So, you know, this doesn't surprise me, CJ. You know, I mean, read the whole article. It's like kind of like our politicians when they take a law and they take one line out of context if it suits them. You know, you have to, unfortunately, read the entire thing. You have to, do a complete, investigation if you want to do something. You can't just take the parts out that you like.
Yeah, well, but this is what happens. And I mean, we saw this during the recall where Facebook was utilized. And,
yep.
One particular group was, very vocal and very outspoken, and the information that was coming out of them was, allegedly accurate. But, again, you have to look at it and say, is this worth my time? Should I be following this, or should I be ignoring it altogether? Anything I read, no matter where it is, I try to follow up. But I think the biggest upset today was the Boston Globe. And Michael Cohen wrote an article, and his headline is, I don't want Trump to succeed. I want him to fail spectacularly. You know, you got to read the whole article, but I'll tell you now, just that headline, it's an attention grabber. And people are all getting upset. But I think the one thing that you have to take out of this, whether it be from the article or just from the headline, is this. If Trump succeeds, we succeed. If Trump fails, we fail. This is what people continually fail to understand. When Obama took office, everyone said, I hope he fails, I hope he fails, I hope he fails. They said, you know, it's never going to work. I mean, we went everywhere from racist comments all the way up the line to, you know, he's not a U.S. citizen. And, you know, and those things went for years. But as Obama allegedly succeeded, so supposedly did America. And, I mean, there are things that I don't agree with. There are things you don't agree with. There are things that you agree with and I agree with. I mean, you're never going to find any elected official that is going to make every single citizen happy. But you have to say very clearly, is it worth the destruction of your country?
Well, you know, CJ, this is the beginning of the end of this nation, because we have devolved, not evolved. You know, at one time, this country was a true melting pot. People were so happy to get to Ellis Island and get into the United States and leave the world that they lived in. They literally kissed the ground when they got to America. They got down on their knees and they cried and they kissed the ground. Today, we have devolved into the society of entitlement. We have to get our way or we don't unite. This country is called the United States of America, not the divided States of America. And that goes for the individuals, too. You don't like the result? Tough. You know, I may or may not like the result. I didn't like George Bush, but he was the president of the United States. There are many presidents I disliked, but they're the president. So you live with them, and then you exercise your right to get rid of him in the next election. And if you don't destroy the nation. These people think that they have the right, because they don't like something, to now not obey the laws of the land. This man is the president of the United States. To say that you want him to fail spectacularly says you want the nation to fail. This individual, Mr. Cohen, is taking a position which basically says, I want this country to have 4 years of failure just so I can get a candidate in that I like. Then you turn the page and you see the other headline. LA police chief says he won't help Trump deport undocumented immigrants. Who the hell is he? And number one, he doesn't deport them. I mean, ICE does. But the fact is, you don't like a law, you disobey it, civil disobedience. Well, pick up some of the quotes of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said very clearly in one of his quotes, if you don't agree with the law and you feel strongly enough, do not obey it. However, read the rest of that quote. He said, you have to be willing to go to jail, because even he understood that civil disobedience comes with a consequence. He said, if you don't like a law, disobey it, but then be prepared to go to jail.
Right.
Because he understood that you just can't disobey things. These people are ridiculous. They're burning American flags and waving Mexican flags. They're lucky I'm not the police chief in that state. I would arrest all of them and send them all to Mexico. They can wave Mexican flags in Mexico. They burn the symbol of this nation. You may believe in flag burning. I don't. Because the flag, to me, is a symbol. It's a symbol of every American life that was given to protect that flag, which symbolizes this nation. And I feel that anybody that burns a flag or desecrates a flag should be prosecuted. Because it's more than just a flag. It's a symbol of our nation. and a symbol of the sacrifices that were made to create this nation. And it's a symbol of the freedom that these idiots are exercising to do the ridiculous things they're doing. But when it gets to the point where you're burning an American flag and waving a flag of a foreign nation, and then you turn around and you tell that nation that's flag you just burnt that you want to be able to have a pathway to citizenship, and you want welfare, and you want all the benefits of that nation, because the nation whose flag you're waving doesn't give you any of that. You're the biggest hypocrite in the world, as far as I'm concerned. You know, and this really irritates me. It's getting to the point where, you know, these people they're out of control. We got a society and a generation of babies. Nobody ever learned how to lose. Nobody ever learned how to, you know, non-result oriented sports. We can't hurt little Johnny's feelings because his team got beat 99-0 because they all suck. Well, you know something? If you suck, you got a choice. Practice harder and get better. That's what happened in the real world. And then they wonder why when they get turned loose in the real world, they can't function. Because in the real world, nobody gives a crap. You either do the job or you get fired. And then that's why they're still living at home when they're 35 years old. That's why all these millennials who wield so much power in this nation today, 50% of them still live with their mommies and daddies. So is this country on the way? This is like the Roman Empire. We are destroying ourselves from within with this ridiculousness. Look, you don't have to like Trump. You've got liberal senators. Elizabeth Warren will whine and complain all you want on your behalf. She will fight every single thing that Donald Trump puts forward. But as long as this man doesn't do anything that's illegal, unconstitutional, and he stays within the parameters of his office, he's just somebody you don't like. I guess nobody out there that's protested ever worked for a boss they didn't like. Ever had to sit in a classroom with somebody they didn't like. That's the problem with this country. Everything has got to be perfect for little Johnny and Mary. Well, and that's one of the problems.
Well, that's true. And I want to let you know now, for those of our viewers who don't realize it, our show does air live on YouTube. And I'm watching one of our avid viewers, and I'd like to say, hi, Manny Joe. I mean, well, I'm reading your comments when I can get a chance, but it's kind of hard for me to get over there to look at them. But, you know, you're right, Chip. It's just amazing that this happens. And Sheriff Hodgson did an interview with our partners over at Channel 10, NBC, and his commentary was very clear. He said, they know they're breaking the law. They know they're wrong. They should expect to be arrested and deported. And I will do that. Now, here's a sheriff that's willing to do that. But he gets reelected hands down. How come it's okay for this gentleman to do it, but when the president said it, or the president-elect, oh no, this is wrong. You know, this is where we have this duplicitous line of thinking. Because especially in Fall River, and now I'm extending this to Bristol County, they walk around like this: not my guy, not my guy, not my guy. Because my guy did this for me. Well, you know what? I'm happy that your guy did this for you. But if you're going to exercise a standard on one elected politician, you need to exercise that standard on all of them. And if you're not going to, then you have no credibility. Because then you're picking and choosing what works for you at the moment. So let's not even go there.
I'm sorry. See, I wasn't loving you. I just, you know, because we get, as you said, we get messages all the time.
Yeah.
And I got a picture sent to me via text, and it's a picture of a woman screaming, and the heading is, "I am a tolerant liberal." And then it says, and this is what it says, and I think it's pretty funny. Agree with me or else you're a racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, inbred redneck, Bible-thumping, NASCAR-loving, gun-toting, American-loving bigot. And you know, that's about says it all, because most of the people waving these flags are the people that are so liberal, but they can't stand any opinion that doesn't fit into their belief, and they want those people, they want to do to those people what they condemn those people to doing to other people.
I know.
That's the absurdity of the whole thing. It's just ridiculous.
It does. It gets to be so ridiculous, it's unbelievable. But while we're sticking with social media and, you know, they're getting beat up pretty good. But now they're the harbinger of sex crimes.
Yes.
Okay? Which we always knew the internet had a small minority of, I'm not going to use the term deviants because, hey, people like what they like, but there's a fine line you have to draw there sometimes. But now Facebook is part of a sex sting where they have a police officer impersonating a 14-year-old girl and allowing people to send racy, obscene photos or nude photos or whatever the case may be to this alleged 14-year-old girl. Now remember, the crime is there because your intent was to send it to a 14-year-old girl. Even though the girl on the other end may be 30 or 40 or maybe not even a girl. So a Fall River resident was picked up on the warrant, but there are others. They have, I believe it's, what was that? They picked up several people on it. And it's Woonsocket that's looking to bring this person in. And it was from the Providence Journal, but the Herald News did run the article. They are that is their sister newspaper. But it's just very interesting that people still haven't learned to cut the crap. Cut the crap. But remember, Mark Zuckerberg saying, hey, you know, we're trying to stop the fake stories. And we'll stop the fake stories. Amazing if you flag something as nudity or racist, it comes down almost instantly. But if you flag it as a fake story, they don't touch it. Okay? When you flag an account that's a hack account of, you know, multiple accounts of you or me or anyone else, they say, no, you got to prove it. And they don't want to verify your accounts. But it makes me laugh because while Zuckerberg is talking, Facebook has a rogue batch of employees which are actually doing this without approval or knowledge, supposed knowledge of the ownership and the board. But meanwhile, Google turns around and their CEO goes on there and says, we're scanning Google daily now. We're pulling off all the fake stories. We're pulling off all this fake crap. Well, I just Googled before the show today. Guess what? I found out that there are Martians living in Salt Lake City. So
that may be true. I don't.
You know, I mean, it's just, you know, again, it's just funny that they're saying they're trying to get all the. You're not going to get rid of all of them. You can try to minimize them, but.
Well, you're right, CJ. But the problem is that we should know that. You know the old saying, "Caveat emptor," let the buyer beware.
Caveat emptor.
Yeah. So let the buyer beware. Look, the Facebook and Google were not intended to be media. It's a social network. So, you know, but the sad part is this society's become so mindless and dependent on everybody having, you know, there's no consequences. You know, the old days, if somebody bullied you, you know, your father told you to go back and punch the bully back, and he probably won't pick on you anymore. He'll go pick on somebody who won't punch him back. Well, they get away with that. And now the dependency has moved further. It's ironic you said that. I think it was the other day I saw something on television where they interviewed some college students, not like somebody that, you know, left school at the 8th grade. College students that said they get all their news from Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Really? That's where you get your news? There's absolutely no evidence that it's true if you read it. And if you do read it, not that I don't read that stuff, but if I read it, I don't take it as gospel. I go check it. I see if there's a standard media, news media, that has a story. I'll research the story. if there's something that's really interesting. But, I mean, you're going on a social media site, which 90% of the people up there got pictures that aren't theirs and profiles that are not really them. And then you're going to depend on that source for news. I mean, again, another symptom of this society could be overtaken by somebody that's good with a computer, because they could disseminate things on Facebook and Snapchat and basically convince the majority of the people in this country today of something that's totally erroneous. Just like the time the woman was on television, she was hysterical. Her life ended because somebody hacked her phone, because she turned on her stove, her coffee maker, the heat, opened her doors, started her car, did everything, paid all her banking on her phone. And when somebody hacked her phone, she was devastated. You know, years ago there used to be cartoons of us in the year 2040 or 2080 of like these little people with no bodies and no muscles and little big giant heads and these little Martian bodies. And they said this is what's going to happen because nobody's ever going to do anything anymore. All they're ever going to do is push buttons. And you know something? We're getting there pretty rapidly. We're getting to the point where, you could be sold anything on Facebook. They could promote anything, and and the people take everything, and everything's about convenience, and there are no consequences for anything. So, this is where we're at, and what has happened now? A nation that needs to come together will not come together because of the way our society has devolved, not evolved.
It's funny you should mention that about somebody to take over the computers. And I can tell you from the political training I went through from both parties that there are companies out there which make millions of dollars just to spread this type of information using all social media platforms. And I remember watching a TV program or a movie where they actually went out and hired a company to destroy a politician, to just destroy him. And it was all done through social media and web posting and hacking into their web pages and everything else, and they made it happen. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to become of this, because it's almost impossible, because you have people creating fake accounts every day on social media, and you'll have multiple accounts. I mean, my account's been spoofed where they've made 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, and they're making comments or sending out things that I never sent out, and I had to report them to Facebook and go through the whole process, and they blocked them and took them offline. But it creates a credibility problem for the individual, and it makes it very difficult. Now, these are tools. They're not supposed to be the be-all, end-all of information. And when the tools are abused, and you can go on Facebook, you can find anything. You can find, pages for the Ku Klux Klan, the anti-Jewish pages, the anti-Islamic pages. You name them, they're on there. Facebook doesn't stop them. So you can find anything you want on there. And now you can find child porn or pedophilia. I mean, now Facebook is becoming another type of page, which actually begins with an F, but it's a vulgarity, where they call it that F book page. So what's to prevent that from happening? And obviously, Facebook isn't taking, nor are any of the media outlets taking any forward thought or taking any actions to prevent such things. And it makes it difficult when you're dealing with billions of people around the globe.
Yeah, but it's the influence that these things wield now. Our society has gotten to the point where many people, especially the younger generation, basically can't even make eye contact with people. There are people, you see them in the restaurant, and they're sitting at the same table, and they're texting each other. They're not talking. They can't communicate. They can't make eye contact. And I'm reminded of an old movie. I think you'll remember. It was called Wag the Dog.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about they created a war that didn't exist. Mm-hmm. And they actually They influence the political process
Right.
by having a fictitious war created, and they marketed this war, and they influenced a political outcome. I think Al Pacino was in that movie, actually. Wag the Dog. And this is the point we're getting at now. You could basically do this anywhere in the United States. You can put anything you want on Facebook, and with the right people getting into the right circumstance and with the good marketing, they talked about Russia. Russia's trying to influence the election. Guess what? So was the Democratic Party. So was the Republican Party. Everybody was trying to influence it. And the problem is, if you didn't depend on social media to influence your thought process, and if you tried for once to do some critical thinking on your own,
Wow.
and doing your own research, that might not have the dramatic effect that it does have now.
It's true. We all do depend quite highly on this device. We all do. Okay? I mean, I'm looking at my screen right now. I can tell you where my blood sugar is. I can tell you my basal rates. I can tell you anything you want on that has to do with me. But that's factual information. People send texts, and we get them throughout the show, and we read them, and they see us looking down, and I hate doing that. And actually, a good practice is to take this, and we've done it here a couple of times, and throw it away, and put the phone away somewhere where you can't get to it. But a lot of times, I get information as I'm sitting here, believe it or not, from the White House, and I'm like, is this good to go out? Should I not put it out? And a lot of it's baloney, and I don't bother discussing it. But when you have sources that are reputable, that are credible, and you're signed up to receive from them emails, text messages of important news breaking stories, you get them. And I'm not talking the stuff you go to a webpage and you sign up for it. I'm talking you get it directly from their press offices, like the governor. The governor's office will text us directly if we have something that's important. So those are credible sources. Anything you read on Facebook, please look. How many times did I hear so-and-so died, some celebrity died? And I go and I look at it, it died 10 years ago, and they're just posting it now. Or so-and-so died, and you go looking, far from dead. How many times I've read Betty White has passed away? She's still alive and kicking. Wonderful old woman. But I'll tell you, it's just, know what you're talking about. So, we're coming to the end of our show, so I want to, it's been kind of quiet this week. I've been surprised.
Well, yeah, we do have the mayor's new millennial party bus that was bought, and I think there were pictures available. So somebody did actually. You talk about the phone. Look, guys, this is a low budget show. If this was a high budget, we have to look at our phones, because sometimes during a show we have viewers that text us something and actually remind and say would you talk about this, or did you ask us questions that we can answer? If we had a high budget show, that we would have somebody in the control room getting all this information. We'd have a little earbud in there, and they'd whisper in our ear, "Hey, we just got something from the governor's office."
I've got the IFBs on order. I've got the IFBs on order. So.
Yeah.
But it's just very interesting, because again, tonight is the park board meeting. I would hope that a lot of you will go out to express your concern and your distaste of what happened, especially of one of the park board members, Jason Caminiti, who said, "We did the city a service." That was hateful. But the new appointees to the park board are all political hacks, as we talked about in a previous show. So I hope to see you there. There will be no necessary media tonight. Probably not next week either, because of Thanksgiving Wednesday. We will be airing next Wednesday, but I think we'll be the last show going out live that day. So.
Stay angry.
Stay angry. Remember, we're here to give you the information you want. And if you can't get it, no one can. Have a great day.